but I have no fear. I got to this point from nothing. So what if I lose it? I'll just do it again. You know, my organization has over 50 employees. That's 50 individuals that have families. And there's weight to that. You know, there's days I don't want to do it, but I do it anyway.
Fade, if you don't mind, man, I'm going to ask for you to take us back a little bit. Like we started the conversation. Again, this is unorthodox, so it doesn't matter. But who are you?
Oh man, who am I? That's something I'm still trying to figure out, Ronnie.
So it's not just me.
No, it's definitely not. And I think, so where do I start? At an early age, I was a guy that I've always just kind of had that entrepreneurial mindset. Some call that a problem with authority. And so, at the end of the day, I knew that I wanted to start my own business in some capacity. I wanted to work for myself. I remember going to my father-in-law, at the time wasn't my father-in-law, and asking him for some advice. He's a successful businessman. And he's like, well, what do you want to do? And, I look back and I thought that was sort of a dismissive ask. But now I look back and say there really was some depth to that. Because at that time, all I really knew was what I didn't want to do. I didn't know what I wanted to do. But at the end of the day, I knew that I wanted to work for myself. And so I made that leap. I had a pretty good job. I was in healthcare management and had a lot of responsibility at a young age, and extremely grateful for that opportunity. Effectively, I was a project manager, and what that meant was I worked for a group of really visionary big thinkers, and they had a core business that was really successful, and they wanted to grow. And so they came to me and said, you're going to be kind of our new business guy. We have all these ideas of ancillary services that we can offer our existing customer base. And so that was really cool, because I got to start 7 or 8 small businesses within one, and I had resources. I had people, helping me and supporting me, and so we launched a variety of different products and services that we got to offer our existing patient population. And it was an excellent lesson in working across teams, because I would work with our salespeople, who were really our practitioners, who were actually serving the patients day to day, right? But we had to educate them on how to sell the services, the additional services that we offered. I had to work with our billing department. You don't have a business if you can't get paid.
True.
I had to work with our production team and get inventory, and then work with our HR team and how to fill out these roles. We needed some clinical assistants. We needed some administrators.
Just for context, you're leading all these efforts.
That's right.
Okay, so you're entrepreneurial in this role.
Correct.
Okay, continue on. I just wanted to make sure.
And and so that ended up sort of coming to an end when I helped launch a business that became really successful. And I know that sounds sort of counterintuitive, but at the end of the day, I enjoyed the newness of every new venture. I enjoyed the new challenge. Every day looked different. The conversations were different. And so we created this final business that really started taking off and became a big deal. And I got bored. And I just didn't. I went to my boss, who's the CEO, and I said, "Hey, I liked what I was doing before." And he looked at me and said, "You really, I got you where I want you. You're doing a great job. And you need to see the bigger picture here." I said, "I see it. but I can't help it that I just don't enjoy it anymore. Because effectively I became a general manager of a lab, and that was okay, and got to learn how to implement process and systems, and got to manage people directly, and as a young man, that was a great experience. But at the end of the day, I was unfulfilled. So I don't recommend my strategy to everybody, but I just talked to my fiance at the time and said, I'm done. I'm unhappy. I cannot do this anymore. So I quit. No plan, just quit. So don't recommend that. But I at the same time, all of a sudden there was this immediate pressure of, hey man, you got liabilities. You got rent, you got utilities, you got car payment, whatever. You better get to work. And so that really just brought the hustle out. And it was a matter of getting on Facebook, getting on Nextdoor, finding odds and ends jobs. I had a lawnmower in the neighborhood I lived in. I picked up a few yards, and I was just making it work. And so what that did though was create a self-confidence and a belief that, hey, I can do this. And at the time the stakes were lower. And so I'm grateful that I made that decision in my early 20s before I had kids and before I had a house and, this, that, and the other. And I think there's a lifestyle trap for a lot of people. They may be entrepreneurial, but you get to a point in your life where you're like, hey, I have all these responsibilities. I can't just afford to just go and quit my job because I don't know what the coming days look like. And I do know that those bills are going to keep coming in. So I'm grateful that, I had the support of my wife and she's like, yeah, just do what you need to do. So all that being said, I did realize like, hey, cutting grass and putting together lawn furniture and this, that, and the other is probably not sustainable long term. So I had to pivot and figure out really what was next. And so I said, real estate's interesting. I could probably do this. And so started the classes and got my real estate license. And while I was doing that, I picked up a part-time job as a plumber. And, 'cause I'm not afraid to get in a crawl space. I'm not afraid to get in an attic and get my hands dirty, and so I was fortunate that he was doing a lot of remodel work for real estate investors. And so I'm looking around and these guys are flipping houses and I'm just doing the plumbing work. Right. And, but I'm looking around, I'm like, I could do this, and so, fast forward, it really did not take too long to, get busy enough in real estate that I could leave all the odds and ends stuff behind and focus on that. Started building my book of business and then I met a real estate investor out of Miami. Met him on Facebook. I had joined all these groups. And I said, look, I know this market. I grew up in Birmingham, with the exception of 4 years at Auburn and 1 year in Atlanta. I'd lived there my whole life and I know this market. And so over the course of about 6 weeks, me and this guy down in Miami are just talking on the phone every few days. I'm throwing him some deals, getting some feedback, seeing what he likes, seeing what he doesn't like. And I bring him just a jam up deal in Vestavia. And he's like, all right, this is the one. I'm buying it. And I'm like, okay, cool. So he buys it. And again, mind you, never met this guy, right? So he says, well, Faye, I need a project manager. We got to flip the house. What do you know about construction? I'm like, well, a little bit. I've been around it. He says, all right, what do you think we need to do to this house? And I give him my advice on what we should do. And he says, okay. He says, all right, what's your PayPal? So I send it to him. Boom, he drops 40 grand. And I'm like, I've never seen that kind of money. What's happening here? He says, figure it out. And so, that kind of reminded me
40
of
grand in a PayPal is nuts.
I know, right? With a guy that I'd never shaken his hand, I mean, it's like, all right. And so, I go back to my time in healthcare, and it was kind of the same mentality of just, hey, man, go figure it out. Limited direction, just figure it out. And so I did. I networked with some contractors, and we flipped that house. He put about 100 grand in his pocket, all said and done. I got paid a couple times along the way, and that worked out pretty well. And so we went and found another one. And then I realized, I've put 200 grand in this dude's pocket. What's really preventing me from doing it on my own? Fear. I had learned enough at that point that I knew where to go to get the funding. I clearly knew how to execute the work. Was learning how to sell the house, sell the product, figuring that out, and mind you, the whole way, I'm getting a ton of support from a lot of people, and so I did my own, right? And as things are progressing, I'm selling my own book of business. Had a good partner who was helping me out with that, and really got it off the ground. And it's just like every checkpoint, every plateau along the way, it's just, you're like, man, that's awesome. I remember I was like, I want to make $100,000, past that goal. And it's just like, check, I did that, that's cool. And so every time you check one of those boxes, your confidence goes up, and your belief in yourself goes up. And I was truly to a point then that I was like, I will never go back to working for somebody, because I know that I can do it. And I think about that today, now that I have a sustainable business. There is no fear. Yeah, the stakes are higher. The size of projects and the size of the liability and yeah, all that has increased. My personal liabilities have increased. I have a lot more responsibility now with 3 kids. But I have no fear. And it's because I got to this point from nothing. So what if I lose it? I'll just do it again. I'll just start over. It's like, so I really truly look at it in a sense of, I'm playing with house money. I absolutely have nothing to lose. And again, as that belief continues to grow and that confidence continues to grow, now the ideas continue to grow, and they're bigger in scale and scope. And I remember Kent Stewart from Rely Title came in and talked to the real estate office, and he says, have a big dream, an unobtainable dream, or at least what it seems like is unobtainable. And that was really impactful. He's like, I'm going to go climb the 7 highest mountains in the world. It's like, why? But now I get it. And it's like, so why not set a wild goal? Man, we only get one go round. What's holding you back? The fear of failure, the fear of losing it. Well, again, I've already dispelled that. Not that I'm not subject to potentially losing what I've built. I certainly am, and I'm aware of that. But the fear, if it goes away, doesn't bother me like it used to. Because again, I'll just rebuild it. This time, I'll rebuild it with a decade and a half of experience. Because look, man, I've made plenty of mistakes. And the only way that I really learn is by making mistakes that cost money.
Yeah.
And I've made a bunch of them. But again, it's just that mentality, that grind of you make a mistake, you improvise, you adapt, and you overcome. Sometimes you have to make hard calls. Sometimes you have to have hard conversations with friends, family. But man, that's part of that growth, and that's part of that journey of, being a man and being a true leader. And so when you talk about identity, it's a moving target. I know fundamentally who I am and what I believe in. But nothing in this world is idle. Every day you're either making progress towards a goal or you're retracting. There is nothing idle. There's nothing just status quo. And so you have to get up every morning and believe that I'm going to make some traction today. And it could be really, really small. And a lot of days it is. But at least, I'm going in with the mindset that I'm going to improve something today. I'm going to be productive today. And productivity isn't always money. In fact, it's rare. I mean, not rare, but it's money is just one metric, right? Being productive is just, did I have a productive conversation with my wife and kids? Did I set a positive example? Am I being a positive role model for my kids? Did I impact somebody's life today? Even in a small way? Was I kind? And so really for me, it came down to being grateful for the challenges of being a leader, being grateful for the challenges that come with the responsibility of my decisions and man, I have so including my subcontractors, my organization has over 50 employees. That's 50 individuals that have families. And there's weight to that, and so I've really been in a season of focusing on the gratitude of not getting in this woe is me mentality and just really embracing the challenges, embracing the stress that comes along with it, because it is truly a blessing to have that amount of responsibility, to know that there's 50 families that depend on my leadership. That's not, obviously I have my family, but to know that what I'm doing is impacting all these other lives, man, that's really powerful. And it can get heavy. But at the same time, I think about, well, what would be the alternative? I'd just be slugging away at a 9 to 5 and again, there's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with it. Yeah.
But it's not me. It's not my identity. And so, man, I get stressed. I get challenged, and I know deep down I'm about to have some hard conversations. And the best way for me to prepare for that is to express gratitude. And thank God for the fact that I'm in this position. I'm in this position because I know that He wouldn't put me in a position to fail. So He's going to throw me challenges that He knows I can handle, that I'm built for. And it may make me uncomfortable, but every time I'm uncomfortable, I grow. And it makes the next one a little easier. And I'm really embracing just doing the hard stuff quickly. And anxiety is a powerful emotion. So the longer I let things percolate, the more of those kind of demons bounce around, and that anxiety creeps in, and I'm so anxious. And then it translates into losing patience with my kids, losing patience with my wife, not being grateful for what's right in front of me because I'm worried about all this other stuff. And so now I'm to a point where it's just like, I know when I get convicted on I have a hard decision to make, I make the call and I rip it off. And man, there's such a sense of relief. It's not easy. It doesn't make it easy. But there's a relief from that. And then we get to a point of, okay, that decision's been made. Now, how do we move forward? And so, and that's what I mean, nothing's idle, So let's get to the place. If we know a change needs to be made, let's go ahead and get to that place because we're going to keep moving forward. Right. So anyway, man, that
is who you are.
That's a long.
So Fade, I got to tell you, like I had about 5 or 6 questions for you. You've answered them all. So thank you for that. But I do want to go somewhere. You talked about fear. Selfishly, admittedly, fear has been the biggest thing holding me back.
Yeah.
I talked about Overton. I talked about how it's helped me realize that fear is going to be a component. And to your point, it's all about how you manage it. And I believe assessing fear with the mindset of gratitude, that's a cheat code, Fade. You got me when you said that. But anyway, I digress. Can you talk about a fearful situation that's safe to be aired, of course, and you can keep it high level. Can you talk about a situation you were in where you were like, oh, dude, I am scared out of my mind about whatever is about to happen? And can you talk us through your thought track on how you got through that?
Yeah. Look, the battle with fear is constant. I think really and truly, if you're not fearful, then you're not growing. Then you're not challenging yourself. You're not putting yourself outside of your comfort zone enough. And again, that's my mentality. And that's a reflection of who I am. That's not for everybody. A lot of people want that security and safety, but I'm just a believer in I want to be in control of my own destiny. You might call that control freak, but so there's been a lot of firsts in my business. I got it in my head that I want to make I want to be involved in commercial roofing. And so I was in my comfort zone doing residential. We've gotten really good at it. We have a nice system, nice process. We get in and out, clean up, but I said, I'd like to get into the commercial space. And that was a journey. That was a journey of getting properly licensed, getting properly equipped. And so it was really a 4-year process to check all these boxes to even put myself in a position to go after a large commercial contract. So lo and behold, 4 years in, I've moved enough chess pieces around that we land our first $1 million roof. And I'm like, all right, now I got to do it. And there's a ton of fear associated with that. I'm not a commercial roofing expert. I'll be the first to admit it, right? But that's why I have people around me that are. That's why I spent that time finding the right people. And then I have to give up the control. I have to give up the control and say, this is why you're here. And I trust you. And I trust that I made that a good decision 2 years ago when I brought you in to get to this point. But you know what? I mean, you just take that energy and you just put it in to something positive. And so for me, and the way that that translated into real life is, man, I didn't leave a stone unturned on that project. We did all the little things right. And it's because there was a high level of control. And it was because that fear, that angst, that anxiety, I just redirected it into, we're going to not only perform, but we're going to perform at our absolute best. And so we put on a show on that project. But that's the standard.
Yeah.
And you know what that's translated into? Becoming a preferred roofer for that general contractor. Because we set the standard. And then you get through it, and you look back, and it's like, we crushed that. You know, in the GC world, they have these kind of recap meetings, and so what they'll do is they'll kind of go down the list of all the trades. And, you know, they'll say, we had to come behind the electricians and do X, Y, Z. We had to come behind the plumbers and do X, Y, Z. And so that we're in this group meeting, and there's all the trades in there, and they get down and roofing, none. It's like, that's the expectation. That's the standard. So fear, man, fear is a...
That's good. Yeah.
Sorry,
I had to let that breathe a second.
Yeah. And so, you know, fear is it's a powerful thing. But if it's directed the right way, and I feel the same way about anger. You know, if something makes you mad, that's okay. Like, anger is not this bad thing. Now, yeah, anger is bad if you take it and you go belligerent and you know, but man, if something makes you mad, if something makes you scared, you know, digest it. Take a step back and think about it, and think about, you know, why is this making me feel this way? And it's because you're convicted, or you're passionate. You know, that's typically where it comes from, or you have a feeling of disrespect, or, you know, whatever the case may be. And it's like, okay, so I always say, you know, my approach is digest it and get comfortable with it, then act. And so, you know, in the moment, just digest it, just eat it, just swallow it. Say, okay, I'm going to remember this. Okay, and then you get comfortable with it. You know, go home when you're laying there at night and you're thinking, recapping something, you say, okay, you know, why did that make me feel this way? All right, let's think about it. Okay, all right. So I'm comfortable with it now. Now, how do I come up with a plan of action? On the personal level, it usually can get solved with a conversation. Ronnie, man, you know, you really made me upset the other day. And here's why. And a lot of times it's just a miscommunication. You know, and so understanding how to accept those emotions, digest them, get comfortable with them, and then redirect that energy. That's been a really important thing in my personal growth. But yeah, so fear is a powerful motivator. And I just believe that if I get to a point where I'm never scared, then I'm not doing enough.
All right, Fate. Man, great stuff. But like, I can't have you on here investing the time without you pubbing Green Valley for a second. So I'm gonna give my review once you're done, because I'm a huge fan of your company. Y'all have done great things for us. But for the 3 people out there listening, tell them what they need to know about Green Valley.
So Green Valley Roofing and Construction, you know, I started that business in 2019, really as a result of my real estate activity. I just realized that there was this common theme amongst agents, and really just homeowners in general, Oh, contractors. And they don't answer the phone. They don't show up when they say they're going to show up. Things get left just vacant for weeks on end. Then they show up when they want, and then and so that was sort of this just generalized mentality and and perspective on contracting. And I just said, is it really that difficult? I've done a little bit of it on my own. Is it really that difficult to answer the phone and communicate effectively with customers? And so that was the genesis of the business. And it really started with doing kind of all construction, residential remodel. And in the beginning, it was easy until I started getting busy. Then it became harder to answer the phone. It became harder to implement those quality control standards. And so that's why I was honest with myself about that and said, this isn't the way either. And so fortunately, I met a guy who was selling roofs for another roofing company. He said, you should sell roofs. And I said, I don't know anything about roofs, but anyway, but what I realized is by focusing on exterior construction, primarily roofing, I could create a system and a process that we checked all those boxes. Answer the phone, provide good quality control, set realistic expectations with homeowners. And so that's what we did. And so, we have a 24-hour call center. And so the phone gets picked up when a customer calls. We pride ourselves on how fast we respond to that. Because, look, if you have water coming into your house, that's a big deal. And so even if it's just looking for some reassurance, we take a lot of free calls. Not every call is going to generate business, and that's awesome because I love that. I love getting off of a roof. This is so weird to say, but I love getting off a roof and telling a homeowner, "Hey, I can fix your problem for $700-800. You got another 5-7 years on your roof," and they're just like, "Oh, man, that's such a relief." I was just thinking you were going to get off the roof and tell me I needed a new roof because that's sort of the MO, and that's going to be $15,000-16,000. I'm like, look, if you want to put a roof on, I'll be glad to, but that's not what you need. And so just we created the business to really embody those core values of honor, integrity, customer service, and doing the right thing. And so we like to get it right on the first time, but there's been times where we didn't get it right. And so, but people partner with us because they know that I stand behind it, and I'll come back and make it right and provide that customer experience. Look, my thing is, because this is my expectation as a homeowner and as a consumer, I don't care if it's bad news. I want news. Just let me know. Don't avoid a hard conversation. And hey, even if I'm not the right contractor for you, or even if this is not the right project for me, I'm going to let you know that. Like, hey man, this is really not something that I can provide that high level of service and that value for you. I think you need to call a handyman. I think you need to call a window guy. I think whatever. And so just being honest, being open, answering the phone, and providing value is really, those are the key principles of Green Valley. And I've been, I joke when I say this sort of tongue in cheek, I am the least experienced roofer in my organization. I'm just the guy that makes sure everything's sort of copacetic. But I've been really, really fortunate that I've met some unbelievable guys that have been in the roofing business for a long time. And I've been able to get them on board and They've brought a ton of experience to the table. They align with our culture, and we deliver that to the customer.
Very nice. Thank you for sharing that.
Thanks for asking.
Of course. Now, as a customer of Green Valley, like I can definitely validate everything you just said, because that is how that's been my experience as a customer. So like, for me, I'm not even asking the questions. If it's roof or anything adjacent, I know who to call. So,
that's right.
And I'm not gonna call you personally anymore. I respect.
But you can.
I know.
I'm
not gonna do that to you though.
Yeah.
Man, that's a great story, Faith. Thank you for sharing that. You wanna keep talking or what?
Yeah.
Like, I'm really mindful of time, man. So
yeah.
So if I just need to get out of my head, I can.
No, man. So tell me. So you mentioned the word cohort.
Yeah.
And my wife thought I was just absolutely crazy when I said that I'm going back to school. And so I just started the Masters of Real Estate Development program at Auburn.
Okay. Of course, Auburn.
And to me, it just makes sense. I'm trying to remerge my two passions, which is real estate and construction, and so that's where development comes in. But the program has been really, really neat, and it's an executive program, and so you have to have 5 years of relevant work experience in something related to real estate to get into the program.
It's an easy check for you,
right? And but what's so cool is, kind of similar to what you were talking about with your leadership cohort. It's like I'm in a room with these random people, but we all have a similar interest in something related to real estate. And so there's all this natural synergy going on. And it's like, hey, I bring some residential exterior construction to the table. Well, the guy sitting next to me, he brings commercial retail leasing experience to the table. We got a GC out of Florida. We got a current active developer out of Canada. And so we got architect guys. We get, so it's such a cool experience just to get together in a group like that, and we all have different levels of experience, but we all have similar interests, and it's just been a really excellent personal growth, exercise, and I just was thinking about what you said about your cohort and that fear of what do I, everybody's kind of going around the room giving their resumes and this and that, and I'm like, do I really have that much relevancy here? And you do.
Yes.
And
everybody does.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so I think just putting yourself in that group is a huge step in personal growth and in confidence.
Thanks, man.
I'm proud of you for that.
Thank you. And forgive me, Faith, but I forgot that I'd reached out to you for the feedback.
Yeah.
But the reason I did was because we'd had talks.
Oh, yeah.
You've always been like brutally honest with me. And it hurts, Faith. I'm telling you, man, it hurts on the front end. But there's been so many principles that have been painful on the exterior, but a little piece of it has penetrated in and it's made me think. So anyway, we don't know who said what because you don't sign your name or anything. But I thank you for doing that. And to your point, man, like I just remember where I was, and like I felt I didn't think I was gonna get in. So there's one. So it's like, oh well, you got in. Okay, well.
What?
You have to make a video to get in. So I just like, man, here's my opportunity to put some sauce on something. I did. I guess that was enough to get me in. But yeah, I get in, and it's just like, nah, like it was more than the video. We got you here for a reason. And it's so funny how you lose sight of that early on when you're, like you said, when you're surveying, you're feeling people out, you're hearing what they're doing, and you're like, ugh. Then you get a chance to talk. Whoa. You know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah, I can resonate with that. So thanks for sharing that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to know more, man.
Okay, let's talk. You ask the questions, man. Talking is what I can do.
Yeah. How did you get to a point of like, all right, I'm diving in?
Okay. It was towards the end of the year last year, which would have been 2024. I don't know if you knew Fate, but like I had been doing podcast production on the side, and was doing it on like Friday nights and Saturday, whatever. Had 2 clients I didn't realize were clients, and so what happened? I'd say October of that year was crazy. There was one lady I was working with who started putting out clips of the podcast I was producing for her. So she calls me and she's like, "Hey, clips are doing great, but I got somebody that wants to talk to you." Okay, whatever. She sets up the call, connects us, another client. "Hey, Ronnie, we love your work. We want to do something just like this. Great." Okay, I'm still not thinking I got a business. Fate, like, I don't mind saying this, but like, Venmoing me, you know what I mean? Like, way under what I should have been charging, but that's a whole other story. And so it started a ripple effect. That person produced for them. They put it out there. So who's doing your podcast? "Oh, Ronnie, you got to call him." Okay, so October, like I think I got 2 new people out of nowhere with no marketing, no nothing. November hits, 4 people who want like full podcast production services, just podcasts. So I'm like, whoa, okay. This is gonna require way more than Friday afternoon and all day Saturday, which was terrible. But you had that Fate, you had that building. And I remember there was one night in December to where my wife came upstairs. She's like, "Ronnie, it's 2 a.m. What are you doing?" And I was like, "I got one more edit." But I loved it, Fate. Don't get me wrong. I love being in the weeds, whatever. Anyway, that's when it hit me like, okay, I can't do this. I had a full-time job at the time. I can't do both. Like, I got to do something. And then January came, starting to get more awareness or whatever. And then February hit, and had a conversation with my employer about me going part-time. And my thought was, once I go part-time, I'm just going to see what happens with the business and just like roll the dice. So scared, Fate. And back to what I was talking about at the beginning, now you have Overton part of the equation. So as I'm like about to roll the dice, I got all this added assurance I'm building with this community of folks who believe in me. And so I'm learning lessons, and you got to do these actions. Like, if you don't do these actions, they ask you not to come back. Like, it's intense. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm doing these actions that I didn't realize were helping my business. And so let me know if I'm getting too far off your question. So I remember finally I was doing what was a glorified pitch in front of our whole cohort, and then half of the cohort from the class before us. And Faye, you've seen me, but I was in a zone. And I was like, hold on, like, I can do this. And so from that, I remember that happened. That following week, phone buzzing. "Hey, met such and such. They say you do this. I need help with this. Do you do this? Do you do that? Do you do that? Yep. When you want to do it tomorrow, Thursday, Like, okay, I got something here. You know what I mean? So that makes a very long story short. But I remember hearing what you were saying, and I was like, man, I'm going through that. Man, I've gone through that. Man, I've gotten through that. Man, I understand that. And it's reassuring, and it's just like, you giving me so much confidence to keep going. So that's how we got here. But this studio space, I've been in this building for 4 years now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so think about it, man. Like, I got to the point to where this opportunity was brought to me from a friend of a client who at the time was just like, "Hey, you ought to look at this space," or whatever. And so, like, you just talk about things just working. You know what I mean? And I was scared. I was so scared, Faith. It's like a lease for a whole year. And I remember staying up at night worried about how the numbers were going to work. And then, like you said, man, like, you look back and it's like, dang, I've been here almost 5 years now. And I'm not even worried about this. Yeah. You know what I mean? Right. And between me and you, we're going to talk about this off camera. I'm looking to see what's next. I know what I want. I just got to go see how I can get it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So anyway, that's how I got here. Can we go back to the brain conversation?
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things in my journey of building my business with the brain is the whole value proposition. Like, okay, Ronnie, we know you know how to work a camera. We know you know how to do your thing with podcasts, but what does that mean for me? And I remember one night we had a gosh, I'm just singing the praises of Overton right now. But we had a sesh, Monday night meetup or whatever. And I just remember, dude, I don't think I left that space till like 11 p.m. And I was just getting hammered by one guy in particular. And he was just like, okay, Ryan, that's great, but what? And I remember being so pissed, but it was so good because it was like, no, I got to think about this. Me walking around with the camera is not enough. Me inviting you to my podcast space and turning some mics on, it's not enough. If this is a business, what you say it is, you got to create some value. And so when I'm thinking about the brain concept for what I'm building for RLG Productions is whether it's in studio or out, my core area of business is I want to know who you want to go after. I want to know your target audience. And I want you, the work I've done before, to trust that I have the intel to know how to penetrate and get your content in front of that. But the biggest thing, Fade, and you made me think of this when you said it about the roof thing, like you love going on the roof and saying, hey, just not give me, but it's only going to cost you $400 to fix this. You don't need a new roof now. I have a similar concept to the content. If you know you're going after this client, let's build a content strategy that's not going to last you a whole year, but the content that we build, I'm going to show you how to mobilize that. I'm going to show you how to really stretch that and how to get that in front of the right people in different places. I don't want you to feel like you got to commit to coming and seeing me every month. You ain't got time for that. You got a business to run. Let's meet now. Let's have some meet. Let's flesh out what we want. Let's build a strategy. Let's do it in as short amount of time as possible. Trust me with the rest. Maybe I'll see you again in a few months. Maybe. Yeah. So that's my whole theory. That's my whole strategy. That's my whole approach.
You know, as somebody who is bounced around trying to learn and navigate the digital marketing space, I find what you just said just extremely poignant in the fact that, man, I have not sat through a single digital marketing sales pitch that was not compelling. And I'm like, oh, here we go again. Because I don't know, man. I don't know what I don't know. I know more now of what I don't know. But that also took time and money and 5 different partners over the last 6 years to figure out, you know, I don't want to be a cog in the machine. I don't want to be a monthly subscription and then me come to you and have to pull you through and say, I need value. You know, and that's a huge frustration for me. And I think a lot of business owners when dealing with digital marketing agencies, look, man, like you're selling me the value. I shouldn't have to pull you through because you got me on an auto bill and that check's clearing every month. You know, and so I think that is the key to your success is truly showing that tangible value. And then also being a steward of your customers' money. You know, and saying, hey, look, man, like, yeah, I mean, we could do this XYZ and really beef this up and I could charge you $6,000. But this is a video, you know, but that's going to get you a video that is not going to be effective to your end user. Meanwhile, for a third of that, we could do something that you could chop up and use 14 times or you know, I mean, that to me right there just that really hits home for my particular business and how I market and you know, I think you're dialed in if you can figure out, you know, how to deliver that. But that's an art. It really is. You know, that's you being able to immerse yourself in your customer's business and understand their needs enough to be able to deliver that.
Gotcha. If I could share this to add a little bit of proof of concept to that. starting out, I had a lot of nonprofit clients. Nonprofits deal with tight budgets. And so over time, what I realized while I was developing is doing a lot on a tight budget. And so I remember one nonprofit in particular, they came to me after this and like, I think we were just doing a podcast. They were recording one a week, 30 minutes. We were putting it where podcasts was supposed to go. So
Right.
doing everything the right way, right? And so I get a wild hair, and they'd given me full access to their YouTube channel. And so I'd started clipping up their podcasts, dropping them on YouTube Shorts. Subscriber count is ticking up. They end up monetizing on YouTube. And I'm thinking, I didn't charge them any extra for that because I didn't feel right for that. I was trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
At the time, I had my own podcast, and we were trying to figure it out too. So we were essentially growing together. And so I was like, hold on now, like, we're taking the same content and making it consumable for most, because everybody's doing the short vertical stuff. Like that's how you get people. But I think it's a hook. I still think it's effective now. But cast that, saw subscriber count go up. They eventually monetized. They had no idea what was going on, but they trusted me with that. And I didn't take that lightly, even though I was kind of like, I'd researched, don't get me wrong, but I was like, it's not gonna hurt anything. More content's not gonna hurt anything. And so that's when I started learning the foundational principles of let's get reach out of this. Because I could have easily had them say, okay, look, y'all need to come back to the studio. We need to shoot something strictly vertical, and this is how it's gotta go. No, we don't need that. You already got the gold. Let me just put bite-sized pieces of it out there. So that's where I started that concept. But the whole strategic arm of the business came when I started doing more promotional content for smaller businesses. And it was just like, you can go out there and you can promote a product. You can promote it. And y'all have a program now to where, I'm gonna butcher this, but it's essentially rehabbing your roof to get you a little bit more life out of it, right? Okay, forgive me for that.
That's all right.
Okay.
No, you
Did I? Okay.
pretty good, yeah.
Okay, so you can go out and talk about that all you want to, but where's the pain point? When you think of the client that needs that, what types of things are they thinking about? And so that's when, and I learned this from a guy in Overton as well, but that's when I started to learn, like, okay, let me try to assess pain points for things, and let's see if we can create content around that and see what that does in terms of ROI. So it changed the way I shot my promotional videos for small businesses. It totally changed it. Because we got to think now, like, who is this product for? You know what I mean? Not just, oh, look at my new toy. Well, it's great for you, but I'm keep scrolling. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, no, man, I'm going back to building it with the brain. The creative is cool. I built the competency to put something out that's creative quality. I built that. That's cool. Could I go in depth and do a lot more? Probably. But how does that impact the potential value for the client? Man, can I share a story with you, Fade? Dude, I got this cinema grade camera. Netflix certified camera. So like you talk about, it means what it says. You can shoot a Netflix style show with this camera. That camera right there, actually. So saved up for it, got it, learned it, shot this video of my son, and very cinematic. They had this thing called color grading, color matching, things like that. I was deep Fade. I'd paid for a class to learn how to do it. So I come up with this 20-second clip of my son, color graded, shot well, everything. Show it to a buddy of mine who's in the space, loved it. Show it to a few other guys in the space, loved it. Show it to my wife, I'm thinking, so I'm hype Fade. I'm like, man, she's gonna want another kid after she sees this. She looks at it, oh, that's nice. She goes back to her business. Gut punch. So I had to start, and I took offense to that because I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, got the cinema grade camera, I shot it this way, I graded it, I did all this stuff, put all this sauce on it. Oh, it looks fine. So then I got to go to her and be like, oh, no. What made this video just okay? Oh, it just looks like everything else I see out there. So that's when I had to, and I'm in this this part of Overton too, where I'm learning more about like, are you going to do hobby, are you going to do business, whatever. And then we're having that conversation. And that's when that was the thing that pushed me over. Like, okay, I am going to do a business. I won't say waste time, because I do think there's a time and a place for that. Not for me right now, but I could invest more time into this, which isn't driving results. Or I can talk to somebody like my wife, who's got a more practical mindset when it comes to creative. What do you want to see? She was a big, big component of me building and shaping that. So I love telling that story. So anyway,
man, that's, but I mean, it's spot on. And, you know, that's what I was saying about that project I had. It's like, I don't need, you know, I think it's really cool that you can do so many different things within this, but its intended use is for one thing. And I don't even know if it's going to work. Right? So like, don't put your skis on before you get off the up to the top, right? I mean, it's like, what, you're getting way too far ahead of yourself, and I think creative people tend to do that. And that's not a bad thing, but you got to figure out where those guardrails are. And in that mentality of, I'm running a business, I need to be laser focused on what is actually adding productive value, right? And I think once you establish that base, then you bring on the cool stuff.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like, then you can sell the sizzle. You know, but I gotta have something to sell first.
Correct.
Right. But that's a good story. And you know, I get that that's a gut punch. You know, but having a partner that will shoot you straight, man, that's a blessing too.
Yes.
You may sometimes be like, well, you know, a little shared excitement could go a long way, and I get that too. But you know, but having people in your corner that are willing to tell you the truth and willing to just lay it out there, like,
right.
Hey man, this, you know, is, you know, ego is a thing, and you got to keep it in check.
Oh yeah.
But I like what you said too about pain points, because I think naturally we want to just avoid pain points. And I think you did a better job of putting to words what I was trying to say about, you know, ripping that Band-Aid off. Because that's what it comes down to, is the faster that I take on the pain point, yeah, I always have better results. You know, I'd be lying if I said that I was aware of pain points that I just ignored for a while, but they don't just go away.
Oh,
so it's like, hey, if you recognize one, you just face it head on.
But it's all about how you name it too. Who says it's a pain point? I know I use that term, but when you look at it, like, I got a different viewpoint on it now. Hey, I'm taking calls now for projects that are way out of my league. I need it, man.
That's a great perspective.
You know what I mean? So like, because
it's an opportunity.
It is, because what they don't know is they're helping me. I got to see where my gaps are.
Yeah, that's
right. So yeah, forgive me for cutting you off, but you struck a nerve with that.
No, but that's a great perspective, and I think an important point. You know, and that's about that mindset and that perspective, man. I mean, it's so easy in today's world to get negative. There is power in positivity, and it's something that you have to work at. You know, I think I look at you and the energy you bring, and I think you're a naturally optimistic person, but it doesn't mean you're not suspect to getting down.
Oh yeah,
you know, and we all are. But that's where that fight has got to come out. You know, and you got to say, nah, I'm not going to feel sorry for myself today. I'm going to get back to work.
Yes, absolutely. That was one principle that I voluntarily brought to my cohort group in Overton, was just like, because it did something to me when you said it, when you said I got the swag. But I realized like people are a huge part of my energy source. I have a natural desire to want to connect with people. I do. I can't turn that off, nor do I want to. But in isolation, it's a scary place for me.
Yeah.
But that's one of the things I had to come to grips with. And it was just like, hold on, how do we figure out how to give Ronnie a dose of that same confidence, swag, whatever you want to call it? And I built foundational principles to do that. And it has made such a difference, not just me as a person, not just me as a husband and a father, but as a business owner as well. So, yeah.
So what are some of those exercises that you do?
So one of them is self-affirmation. And I had this idea, like, in order for me to be self-assured and self-confident, I had to be able to look myself in the mirror and say, Ronnie, you're that dude. And that just seemed very cringy to me. And so once they brought in this coach to help us go through this, like, dude, it was amazing. But once I deconstructed that and found out, like, why I think that's how it's got to look, I then developed a thought track of, it's kind of like, I don't like saying look in the rear view because I don't think it's positive, but like, look at what you've accomplished. And one thing I never did was look back and see like, okay, where did you start this? And one of the things that I do, and I make time to do this, probably about twice a month. I keep most of the content that I've produced, most of it, not everything. But I've gone back recently and I found some stuff that I shot on my iPhone. And I was like, dang, dude, all things considered, this was pretty good at the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, Ronnie, you were involved in this. So I'm like, okay. And then I take about 30 minutes and I just start inching back to where I am now. It's like, hold on now. And you touched on this too with the goals you set for yourself. I look back and I'm like, hold on now. No. I'm not going to get out here and say I'm the greatest, but I am going to say I can do something. I can make an impact. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A positive impact for somebody. And that's one element. Another one is I've developed my own counsel of sorts. People that are going to be honest with me, people that are going to encourage me when I need it. People I can go and say, look, here's the thought track I'm going to now. It's negative. What do you think? And then I shut up and listen. That has been huge in terms of folks reminding me like, hey, Ronnie, you remember that time you did this? You remember that time you went and presented here and the reaction you got? You're still that guy. So it's like, okay, all right. And it's enough to just be like, all right, let's go back out here and get him. It's like a boxer going to the corner. You know what I mean?
That's right.
So yeah, so those are my two things that I do. One thing that I don't give enough credit to, man, and this is my therapist that gave me this, but dude, I journal a lot. I journal a ton. I'm not regimented saying like 6 a.m. I'm going to journal, but I know when it's time to do it, and I'll just write. It's unorthodox, but I'm getting stuff out. I'm getting it on paper, or my Remarkable. You know, I'm still a techie. But I write on my Remarkable, and then once I write it, close it, and I go about my business. Oftentimes, I'll go back and read, and that'll kind of kickstart my memory. Like,
sure.
man, you remember when you wrote about you thought Overton was crazy for letting you in, and you see what?
Right.
Oh, okay. So journaling's another. I don't talk about it enough. That's a huge one.
I love that.
Yeah, man.
I'm such a masochist, man. I just do things just to challenge myself and put myself out of my comfort zone. I've been on the cold shower protocol for about 2 years.
Tell me more.
And that really reset my brain. A couple years ago, things were just getting heavy, and I just, like I said, I realized that angst and that anxiety was having an impact on my relationships. And so I said, I have to step my game up. And so for me, it started with, I read a book called Extreme Ownership. And, and that's, it's it's about a group of Navy SEALs, and anyway, it's really business principles based on extreme ownership, and that's something that I really drive home culturally at Green Valley, and but it starts with me. And so if I don't embody that, how can I expect them to do that? And so basically, man, it's kind of like the same principle of making your bed every morning. You start with accomplishing something. And so for me, it starts with putting myself in a position to be uncomfortable. And man, and kind of to your point about looking back, I was only able to do the cold water for 3 or 4 seconds in the very beginning. And, now I have to have it. 2 years later, it's become such a ritual and such a part of my routine that if I skip one, I'm off. Like I'm off base. Like I'm a little erratic. I'm a little temperamental. And so now it's truly a place where when that cold water hits, all I can think about is breathing in and breathing out, and it just dumps everything out of my head. I mean, it's just like this just release of stress and thoughts, and it's not fun, but it's this just relief. And then because all I can do in that moment is just think about my next breath. That built the foundation of starting to add additional small wins. And then that kind of transpired to 25 push-ups. And it's like, man, I can't miss a day. Like I cannot miss a day. And that's when, again, everything compounds. It's just like committing to small wins. Like, I think, although Ken Stewart's right, like dream big. I think people can get caught up in, I'm not making any progress towards that massive goal. Well, why don't you also set some small goals that are winnable every day? And then that just creates this mindset and this routine of small wins every day. And then it's just, I start the day with a miserable experience. And that's crazy to say, but it truly helps just reset my brain. And it's like, I know that if whatever challenge, because I'm going to get challenged every day, whatever challenge comes my way, just take a deep breath, digest it, get comfortable with it, execute the plan. And so those are some examples of things that I do to kind of get on that same track.
Dude, if you can take a cold shower, you can do anything.
That's the way, right? And so I get why there's all the cold plunge people, and that's not quite. I'm not quite to that extreme. But for me, that's a conscious decision to turn it to cold, and
That's so good.
there's days I don't want to do it.
Yeah,
but I do it anyway, and that's a big phrase that I've been using a lot in this particular season is do it anyway. And
scared.
I think
Do it.
that's right.
I don't know how it's going to work out.
Do it anyway.
Do it anyway. It's going to be cold.
Do it anyway.
That's good.
Is it going to kill you? No.
Nah.
Do it anyway. So, that's I've gotten a lot of benefit from that. Because man, if you let life roll you over, it's very much capable to do that.
Keep going.
And so you have to find it. You have to find it deep down, and it's within yourself. And you got to keep going. You got to do it anyway, because you got people you got to show up for. So,
Hey, I'm sorry. I didn't know we were gonna go here.
let's go.
People you got to show up for. You and I got boys.
That's right.
Who they looking at?
That's right. That's right.
Do it anyway.
That's right.
If for no other reason. What you got? You got 3?
3 boys.
3 boys. I got 2. For no other reason. Do it for them.
No doubt.
You shook me with that one.
No doubt.
Is that the real time?
Yeah.
Crap. Okay.
So
I got a call in 1 minute.
let's go. So I enjoyed it, man.
Thanks,
you.
Fade.
Thank you for having me on.
Appreciate your time, man.
This was great. And, I'd be glad to do it again sometime.
For real?
Of course.
Tomorrow. I tell you what, Faye. I tell you what.
Do it anyways.
Do it anyway. No, I'm bringing the mics to the shower. Too much. Nah, thanks for your time, Faye, and thanks for all those gems you gave me, man.
Yeah,
Seriously.
man. Likewise.
Really appreciate it.
Always enjoyed catching up with you, man.
Thanks, man. Cool.